Welcome to the Deep Dive. We're going to explore what really drives us today, going a bit deeper than the surface stuff.
Yeah, looking beyond the obvious motivations.
Exactly. And you, our listener, you've sent in some great material, actually, looking at motivation from different angles, work teams, personal growth, that kind of thing.
Some really interesting examples in there.
So our mission, if you like, for this deep dive is to really pull apart those sources, figure out what genuinely creates that lasting motivation.
And crucially, how we can actually build it for ourselves too, not just for others.
Right. It's fascinating how your sources hit on some core truths about what makes us tick, doesn't it?
It really does. You see these examples where the standard ways of motivating people, they fall short.
Yeah, they don't quite cut it.
And that really points towards needing maybe a deeper understanding.
Absolutely. Like one thing that really stood out was that story about David, the team manager.
Oh yeah, the bonuses and gift cards guy?
Pizza parties, the works. He was throwing everything at his team, trying to get them fired up. And okay, maybe there was a little initial buzz.
A short-term bump, perhaps.
Right. But it didn't last. It actually seemed to fizzle out and even led to people feeling burnt out. What's going on there, do you think?
Well, I think that perfectly captures a key idea. One, Susan Fowler really digs into that real motivation, the lasting kind. You can't just hand it out.
It's not transactional.
No, exactly. It has to come from within. David was basically putting a Band-Aid on something much deeper. It's that classic carrot and stick approach, isn't it?
Yeah.
It might make someone jump, in the short term, but it doesn't build any real desire, any genuine investment in the work itself.
It makes me think of trying to build a fire. You can light paper and whoosh, it flares up.
Big flame for a second.
But it's gone just like that. The kind of motivation that lasts, the stuff that comes from feeling like what you do matters, or really loving the challenge, wanting to get better, that's more like putting a solid log on the fire.
Keeps burning steady. A much better analogy.
So if those external sparks, the paper, aren't the answer, what is? What's the wood?
Well, we need to create the right conditions, right? The conditions where that internal fire can actually catch and keep burning. And Fowler's work, drawing from that, it really points to three fundamental human needs. Autonomy, relatedness, and competence.
Right, let's unpack those. Autonomy first, it's about having choices, feeling like you have some control.
Precisely, the freedom to choose how you approach things. Your sources had that really interesting example, Rachel, the school principal.
Oh, yeah. She felt her teachers weren't up to scratch, so she started micromanaging everything.
Which sounds completely exhausting.
For everyone.
And as the material showed, it was actually doing the opposite of what you wanted. It was crushing their motivation.
So counterproductive.
Totally. But the really insightful part was the shift, wasn't it? When she stopped dictating and started, asking questions.
Like, what would make this job more meaningful for you? Or how do you want to teach this?
Exactly. Asking, not telling. And the results.
Pretty dramatic, apparently. Teachers got more creative, more invested. They felt that ownership, and even seemed happier doing their jobs.
It makes you think of that Tony Robbins quote, something like, the only limit to your impact is your imagination and commitment.
Yeah, that fits. When you trust people, give them that space.
They often step up.
Yeah.
But if you're constantly looking over their shoulder, that natural drive just sort of shrinks.
So the shift is from managing by control to managing by what? Coaching.
I think that's a great way to put it. Stop controlling, start coaching. Ask more, listen more, tell less. Give choices, even small ones.
Yeah, that makes sense. Instead of just saying, do this report by Friday.
Right. Try something like, okay, here's the goal for this report. How do you think we should tackle it? What timeline feels realistic to you?
It's a completely different conversation. It builds trust, doesn't it? And taps into that internal motivation.
Exactly. Okay, so that's autonomy. What about the second pillar? Relatedness.
Connection, belonging.
That deep human need we all have. The example you shared about Maria, the project leader. Her team was really struggling.
Yeah, missed deadlines, tension, people blaming each other. Not a happy place.
A classic downward spiral. And her solution was, pretty unconventional.
Right. Instead of another performance lecture, she got them all in a room and asked everyone to share something personal, something most people wouldn't know.
Which must have felt a bit risky, maybe.
Maybe, but think about the effect. It shifted the whole dynamic. They stopped seeing each other just as roles, programmer, designer, whatever, and started seeing the actual people.
Connecting on a human level, sharing a bit of vulnerability.
Yeah, and the laughter, maybe a few awkward moments, but it built connection. And then productivity actually went up. Trust improved.
It wasn't a coincidence. It shows that relatedness, like Fowler says, it's not just a soft skill or a nice to have.
It's fundamental.
It really is. We need to feel like we belong, like we matter, like we're part of something. Think about it. Compare a place where you feel invisible, no one says thank you,
You just feel like a cog in the machine.
versus a place where people know your name, they ask how your weekend was, they celebrate small wins together. Which environment do you think people perform better in? It's obvious, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. It reminds me of that Denzel Washington quote about lifting others up, giving back.
That's it. Connection is key. When people feel seen and valued, they naturally give more. Even just checking in, like with that quiet employee, Sam, in the example, just asking, how are things going, can make someone feel noticed.
So, practical ways to build this.
Yeah.
Be curious about people.
Genuinely curious. Celebrate progress, not just the final result.
And maybe share a little about yourself too. Build that bridge.
Create shared experiences, even small ones. It's like that traveler building a bridge. It takes effort, but the connection pays off long term.
And it's not about having a fancy title, is it? Leadership in this sense is just about how you treat people.
100%. Which leads us nicely into the third piece, competence.
Okay, so feeling like you're actually good at what you do.
And crucially, that you're getting better, that you're making progress. The story about James, the new hire.
Right, he started off all enthusiastic, but then his confidence dipped because he wasn't getting much feedback or recognition.
Exactly. It shows how quickly feeling incompetent or just feeling like you're stagnating can kill motivation.
You just disengage if you feel like you're not learning or growing.
But the flip side is also true. When you feel capable, when you see yourself improving, that's incredibly energizing. You start looking for the next challenge.
And competence here doesn't mean being like the world expert.
No, not at all. It's more that internal feeling of progress, of mastering something that used to be hard, and having that progress seen and acknowledged.
Like having a good coach. Someone who doesn't just point out flaws, but shows you how to improve and believes you can do it.
Yes, that belief is so important. Brian Tracy said something about focusing on desires. Well, we all have a fundamental desire to grow, to feel effective. It's about evolution, not ego.
So how do we help build that feeling in others? Or even in ourselves?
Well, giving specific praise is huge. Not just good job, but I really liked how you handled that client objection by doing X, Y, and Z. That was really effective because...
So they know exactly what worked.
Right. Recognizing progress along the way, not just the finish line. And then, yeah, offering challenges, but with support. Stretching people, but not throwing them in the deep end alone.
Like climbing a mountain, maybe? Yeah. It's tough, but each step up feels like an achievement.
And having a guide, someone cheering you on, pointing out how far you've come, that makes a massive difference.
The coaching example with Layla really showed that too. She learned public speaking, something new, and that process itself, that growth, was hugely motivating for her.
It wasn't about a promotion. It was about the competence she built.
It really makes you reflect, doesn't it? If you're feeling a bit flat, maybe ask yourself, am I learning anything? Am I getting better at something? When was the last time I felt that buzz of mastering a new skill?
Exactly. So when you put all three together, autonomy, relatedness, competence, you see the pattern.
It's not about the external carrots and sticks.
No. It's about creating environments, whether at work or home or anywhere, that feed these basic human needs. And when you do that, something shifts.
People stop asking, what's in it for me?
And start thinking, how can I contribute more? How can I help make this better? It becomes about meaning, not manipulation. That's the core of real sustainable motivation.
So the big takeaway here seems pretty clear. Lasting motivation isn't bought, it's built by fostering autonomy, building relatedness, and nurturing competence.
Whether you're leading a team, raising kids, or just trying to motivate yourself.
Think about how these ideas play out in your own life. You know, in your job, your relationships, maybe your hobbies. Where do you feel these needs are being met? Where are they lacking?
And that brings us to a final thought for you, our listener, to maybe chew on.
Yeah, what's one small thing, just one change you could make starting today to boost either autonomy, relatedness, or competence for yourself or for someone else around you?
Just one small step it's worth thinking about, because that small step could unlock something much bigger.